What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of DNA Real Talk, the all-movie podcast version of our show. And instead of going through all the stuff that we usually did, like us on Facebook, you know that by now. So we're just going to jump right into it. And I guess the first thing we always ask is, what have we all been watching lately?
We watched The Danish Girl. So
it was an interesting kind of look at that whole, like, I guess what would be like the beginning of that whole transgender movement.
Yeah.
Like, it was really interesting to see that in that time period.
Yeah.
Because, like, today it's more commonplace. It's more, like, I mean, it's still not accepted, really. But, I mean, like, it's more accepted today than it would have been in the
100 years ago. Almost.
Yeah. So, like, I was really interested to see Eddie Redmayne kind of take on that role and how he like completely transforms throughout the whole movie. Like you can see him get thinner. You can see him take on the mannerisms of a woman. You can see him like, there's that one scene where he like takes off all of his clothes and stands in the mirror and then like
tucks.
Yeah, and they don't hide anything either.
No.
So, like, it was like...
But it wasn't vulgar.
It was... I'm just saying, like...
They went there.
Yeah.
Even though it's terrible to say, but watching that scene, I couldn't help but think of Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah. I've never seen Silence of the Lambs.
You never seen... Have you seen... Oh, damn it.
I don't watch movies like that.
People who have seen it, you know what I mean. When he tucks it in, he's standing in front of the mirror. It's a pretty iconic scene in Silence of the Lambs. It was pretty bizarre. But, that's what I was saying to you guys before we started this episode is that I think that's the biggest thing that kind of like makes The Danish Girl for me doesn't have like a rewatchability kind of thing for me. Is because like they really go for it and they don't hold back at all. And it's kind of bizarre because I've never really seen that before. I know like Philip Seymour Hoffman did it in a movie before, and other actors have done that before where they dress up like a woman, maybe in like Tootsie or something like that. But this was like to a whole different level, and it is kind of bizarre seeing an actor, Eddie Redmayne, be this way in a movie, and it's just like he really goes for it, which is great. I'd love to see more stuff like that, but it was just like jarring because I've never really seen anything go this in depth before, and something that would be this important to the LGBT community, and it was just insane and super authentic. I think, like I was saying that before the Oscars, was that the clothing and
it was
the architecture and everything and the whole place looked
loved
really
on
great.
That note, like, there were no distractions. It was about the few characters, the costume, the location. It was very, like, just the way it was filmed. It was very
focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really it was very simple.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the opportunity to get emotionally involved because you weren't distracted.
Mm-hmm.
I think that played a big role.
And like the first couple episodes of the movies that you recommended, like they were good on a different like type of level, but they weren't as interesting as this movie to me, because this movie was like, I went in kind of knowing what it was about. Like I knew like it was about.
You knew it was a true story and all that kind of stuff.
No, I did not know it was a true story until like partway through the movie we looked it up, and like I was like, oh, well, like, and that made it even more like intriguing to me.
Yeah, like Birdman and stuff. They're thought provoking, but this is like real life.
Yeah, and I was actually like super invested in the characters and super invested in what was going on, and I was really interesting that like throughout this whole movie, his wife still loved him so much that she took care of him. She wanted to be with him, even though she knew something was missing from their lives. Like she like wanted a man. She wanted a husband. She wanted children, and like, but she supported him, and she totally like the characters in the movie totally that knew what he was trying to do and go through were like super supportive, and is really interesting, and really like I was actually like invested in this movie and like really, I guess, supportive in the way too. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I like it. Anyone that doesn't know, it's like the true story of the first person that had transgender gender reassignment surgery. But that's kind of towards the end. Like you get that whole time of just not to like discount what it's about, but I mean like you really get you have almost the whole movie to get invested in the character before you even get to
like,
that part of it. And it's interesting because it is so revolutionary because his female name is Lily. Like the real Lily did go through this, but that's just a representation of one out of how many people that were suffering and going through it. So that was kind of cool. But like we said, I love that they're both artists. They're both painters. Like he is very like well known, and then I liked also the parts like it's finally she gets her big break and becomes more well known and more accepted. But it's as he's kind of realizing he wants to transition, and she yells at him a couple times, like, let this be about me. Like, her whole life ends up being about him. Her paintings are about him, then her. Like, that was kind of interesting when she was like, stop being so selfish. But at the same time, she had to support him.
Yeah.
It was interesting. There was a lot of dynamics.
Yeah, it was really interesting watching him find himself and then watching him transition into her, like finding that part of who she was inside, and like really taking on that personality where like, you know, he was gone but she was there but trapped in his body. It was like really,
it was interesting to see it that way.
Yeah, watching someone go through that, it was just like really,
because at first when he was like saying to his wife like, oh, I can't bring him back, I'm Lily now, I can't bring him back, and at first you could tell he was like doing that on purpose. Then as the movie went on, like you could see like through the acting, through everything, like he really like wasn't him anymore. He became Lily. Like you saw even like the first time he like held her stockings and like felt the dress, he was like, something woke up in him like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's
like,
what I was just going to say. I thought one of the best things about the slower pace of the movie was that it really gives you time to show him starting to realize things and starting to think that this is maybe the way I want to be, or this is something that I thought about. Because I remember even that moment in the movie where he talks about how that old friend of his, played by Mathis, can't remember his last name, but he's really great in this movie called Rust and Bone. And he was really great in this too, like a really good supportive friend. But then he talks about that at one point where like when he was a little boy, like him and him kissed each other. And then like even that was like some kind of awakening, but then it was pushed down because, you know, father came in, kind of beat him up or whatever. And then it comes to now where, which you've seen it in the trailer too, so that's not really a spoiler, but, you know, like how he puts the dress over top of him and then the stockings and stuff like that. And then just the way that it was filmed and the way that Eddie Redmayne's facial reaction was, it's like it's done so well to where you can really understand what's going on here, even though you couldn't, maybe if you wouldn't want to, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say, but I know it's obviously true that the LGBT community isn't fully embraced yet, but I feel like if somebody who isn't for the community could watch this movie and kind of understand from the perspective of someone in the community.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I have always been full support anybody LGBT. I don't care. I accept everybody. But watching this movie was the first time I think I had like a really aha moment as far as transgender. Like I was like, okay. It was the first time I really like emotionally understood it. Like I get it. Like obviously no one can really get it unless you're living it. But I've always been accepting. But it was the first time that I was like, wow. Like it was impactful without being forceful.
Yeah.
Like
Nothing about the movie really felt forced. It never really felt like they're shoving it in your face.
Yeah.
Like, which, like, I'm like you. I totally support if you're gay, lesbian, if you're transgender or going through that. Like, I totally support that. I'm all about that community, you know? Like, I want to support it. I do support it. But this is the first. But like the things that are annoying are when people like shove things down your face. Like we talked about racism a couple episodes ago about how like when like
the
race,
Oscars.
like race is just
Yeah,
like
the Oscar thing.
Yeah, it was just like this big thing during the Oscars. Like I don't like when like things are shoved down your face. Is that okay? Okay. A lot of beeping. I didn't understand what was happening. But like let me give you an example of it being shoved down your face. The whole Caitlyn Jenner thing.
Yeah.
Totally shoved down your face. Super annoying.
The reality show.
Yeah. Like that
the
aspect
cover
of
of the
it is like,
magazines,
okay,
yeah.
we get it. Okay, we get it. But like this is like the way this movie portrays it exactly how like you want it to be portrayed, and this is how the community should be understood. This is how the person going through this should be understood.
It was about emotion.
Yeah.
It wasn't about magazine covers
Yeah.
and
Yeah, it wasn't all about look, this is me, like with all these like
Here I am.
lights and everything. It was just like, this is who I am, this is what I'm going through. Like please support my decision, like within his small community of people
Yeah.
as he goes through this transition, which is like what I really loved about the movie. Like out of all the movies that you like that we've watched for this show, this is probably my favorite movie out of all the movies that we watched. And that's probably really surprising to you.
It is a little surprising, to be honest, because it's such a visceral movie.
Yeah. But like I really liked how it was done, and it like the other movies felt really long and they were shorter than this one, and this movie
it went
felt
fast.
really short, and it was longer than all the other ones except for maybe Birdman was kind of
Yeah, it was kind of long.
longer. But
I also loved how they showed what was her name in the movie? Gerda, Alicia Vikander, the wife. They showed her side of it, like what
Yeah.
it's like for your partner. Like she lost her husband, and then she had to decide: do I stick by? If I stick by Lily, I have to understand that Lily's not my husband. But can I handle that? Like, can I handle looking at my husband in a wig and knowing it's not my husband? Like, it was interesting. It was really interesting watching. She had the opportunity to kind of go off and, you know, kind of start her own life and really start her career. And once again, she kind of just stepped back and stood by his side. And no matter how many times she was like, no, I'm done, she still showed up for every surgery and held his hand. And
yeah, and the one thing that I really liked watching too was like Eddie Redmayne's transition.
Oh my
like
God.
not as the character, but like himself as an actor playing the character. Because like
You
throughout
forgot
the
it was
movie,
him.
Throughout the movie, yeah, you totally forgot it was him. But throughout the movie, you know, like you could see him getting thinner. You could see it in his face. You can see it in like
his
his
mannerisms.
arm muscles were like getting smaller.
Yeah.
Like his mannerisms were totally like he was totally taking on this role, and it was just like he's a phenomenal actor. Like I didn't see Theory of Everything.
Yeah,
but,
I didn't
I
either.
mean, like the trailers and stuff, you could totally tell like that.
He
I
transforms.
mean, he won the Oscar.
Yeah, he won the
Yeah.
Oscar for that one. So
But like, you know, this is really kind of the first time I've ever seen him really in anything, and like he is like he's like the next big thing. I think like
He's one of my favorite actors.
I kind of feel like he's really underappreciated because he's like.
well, he is because to be honest, I haven't seen him in a whole lot. Like I've seen him. The first thing I think I ever saw him in was My Week with Marilyn.
Yeah.
And then I saw him in like Hick and stuff like that. But then in this,
Yeah, and I think like when he's really gonna come to the forefront of like acting culture here in America is like he's gonna be in the new Harry Potter spin-off movies,
Yeah.
and that's where he's gonna
That'll
be
be a
like,
household name.
yeah, I mean that's when he'll be the household name. But like it's movies like this that are just like he's super underappreciated. He was really good.
The amount of dedication that took, yeah, underappreciated.
And I think that's part of the reason why I super appreciated this movie and really loved this movie was how well he acted, and like it made the whole supporting cast look better. Like you could tell like his acting was like made them want to like act better, for a lack of better terms. Like I just felt like he was like rubbing off on everybody around him.
Right, because it wasn't enough for him to just put on the makeup and a dress and a wig. He had to transform, because if it was just that, I don't think it would have been as good of a movie. But even there's this scene where he goes to like it's not a brothel, but it's like in Paris, and there's like a prostitute of some sort in the middle, and guys, they pay to look at her, and they like sit around the windows and look at her, and she just, you know, touches herself and whatever. But he goes in there to mimic her movements. I completely forgot he was Eddie Redmayne in that moment. I forgot he was a man. That was one of the most beautiful moments, I think, because he was just like mimicking all her movements. It was really cool. I don't know. I just like I remember I called my mom after we watched it and like told her she had to watch it, and the only thing I could say on repeat was it's just a beautiful movie. The concept, the way it's filmed, the way it's just beautiful. Like there's nothing, it's such like a lack of other words, but like that's it. It's just a beautiful movie. And like you had raved, like the costumes, like everything, it's just I love it. Rave reviews all around.
Yeah. But, I mean, I feel like it almost has to take that into consideration whenever you're mentioning it to other people, is that you really need to understand that this is a strong LGBT kind of movie.
Oh, yeah.
And you shouldn't be going into it thinking that it's going to be like, I don't know, a certain way, or just like, I don't know, just, I feel like the best way to say it is like it's very intense and it's very real, and you should be prepared for that and not go into it thinking that it's going to be like some kind of phoned in version of
not the way like, for example, Orange is the New Black has a transgender actress as one of the main characters, and that's very like glamorized, and like they don't like show like anything really, but like for people who watch that show, they know like how that actress is and what they do in that show, and it's more of like a comedy type show anyway, but like this portrays like transgender very different and very real and very not glamorized Hollywoodized type way.
Yeah.
Which I think is another reason
it had
why I
no
really
Hollywood
like
feel
movie.
to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
If honestly, I'd feel like if there's people who are against transgender or think that it's like it's wrong or something like that, I feel like this is almost like a not instructional, but informational movie. Like if you watch this movie, I feel like you'll understand it better if you watch this film. All on the board. We all highly recommend it. It's worth your time. But like I was saying to these guys before they watch it, it's like I just be prepared, because it's, if you've seen Eddie Redmayne in other movies like My Week with Marilyn or something like that, and you're like, oh man, this guy's great. Going into this movie, you really have to understand that they go to places. They really do. All right, we're gonna move on here, and I know that last week you guys talked about Trumbo and Bryan Cranston's transformation into that, and also just the whole how comedic actors can play serious roles. And it looks like Bryan Cranston's taking on another one, this time with the same director too, which is cool. And I saw a trailer for this a little bit ago, and then we all watched it today again because I hadn't seen it in a little while. But how HBO is coming out with this movie called All the Way, where Bryan Cranston is playing LBJ, Lyndon
B. Johnson.
Lyndon B. Johnson. And
Not LeBron James.
I really didn't know what to expect. It said All the Way, so I really didn't know what the movie was. So when I watched the trailer, and then I see what they're going for and what they're doing, and it really blew my mind, especially because it happens sometimes in movies where you'll see an actor, he looks a lot like a real life person or something like that, but I don't think I've ever seen it this way before. Like, Bryan Cranston looks exactly like him.
Yeah. Yeah. The makeup effects that they put on him, and like you can tell the nose is prosthetic, like because of the way Bryan Cranston's nose is, and Lyndon B. Johnson has a very distinctive nose shape, but like man,
it looks
it's like
good.
spot on.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and like I'm really I'm glad you brought it to our attention, because like the Trumbo was really good, and like the way he portrays a character is really good, and like Lyndon B. Johnson has a very distinct personality for anybody who's like up on their history or whatever. He has a very distinct low key like Southern accent. Like he just has this distinct depiction of him. You know, he's a distinct person. So like watching Bryan Cranston take on this role got me even more excited.
And I'm excited for the actual movie because, okay, we obviously didn't live through it, but we all know about Kennedy's assassination, but we didn't live through what happened after that, and that's super important. So this is like, okay, everybody went back to real life, and Lyndon B. Johnson had to like step in, so what the heck happened next? So I think it's a cool perspective. It's a cool story.
What happens after the biggest assassination in American history? Like, what happened?
Okay, and that's what we all think of all the way for right now. We can't really say much more because, I mean, the movie is coming out kind of soon.
May 21st, I think it said. It's a
soonish.
Saturday.
So we're definitely going to be looking forward to that and definitely going to be talking about it because I really want to see it.
I'm excited.
Very much so. All right, and we're going to move on to some questions for this Real Talk. The first one comes from Sean, who asks...
What was that?
Sean, who asks, what do you think...
He doesn't like this question.
What do you think of Batman v Superman? Thoughts on what they pulled from the comics and how it was portrayed on screen?
I knew you didn't want to talk about this, but I had to. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Because we haven't seen it yet. Me and Son haven't seen it yet. But you have I want to say, a generally unique perspective of liking this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And me personally, I honestly want to know what you liked about this movie, because I want to go in hearing something about this movie. Because I have a couple friends. Like it feels like this movie, if you're really into the comics, if you really are really into Superman and Batman comic books, you like this movie. And there's bits and pieces of this movie that feel like they're missing, but also there's a director's cut coming out when the DVD comes out, and which seems like the version to watch. So I want to know what you thought of the movie, because I know there's certain things that happen in this movie, just from hearing things, but anyways. Minor spoilers, maybe, for Batman v Superman. Maybe.
I really don't want to talk about this movie. I was telling you that before. It's this movie gets so much crap that it's I honestly think the biggest thing is that I know we usually have spoiler casts and stuff. That's the one thing I don't want to participate in. I'll talk about it right now, but spoiler cast, I don't want to participate in that because I don't like hearing so many bad things about a movie I loved. That's when Man of Steel came out and everyone was bashing it. It was making me mad how many people were bashing this movie, and it was ridiculous. And this one's getting even worse ratings. I saw this meme the other day of Ben Affleck's face, and next to it was the Rotten Tomatoes score for Daredevil and the Rotten Tomatoes scores for Batman v Superman, and Daredevil has a higher score than Batman v Superman does, which is ridiculous because Daredevil is horrible. That seems a little
ridiculous.
I don't know,
and even Paul Blart Mall Cop has 1% higher than Batman v Superman.
That movie was so.
I wonder if, and this is me not knowing anything about these movies or what people are specifically mad about. I feel like people were programmed to be mad at it before they even had a chance to naturally have a reaction to it. All I heard from day one is it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad. I don't think people are having natural reactions to it. They were programmed to hate it.
Yeah.
That's just my from the outside looking in. That's my interpretation of a lot of it.
Yeah, this is the thing that I heard about this movie is Ben Affleck's great. Wonder Woman's probably the best part of the movie, although the reason why she's in this movie is a little far-fetched, and it probably could have been done without her. Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor is pulled from a different type of Lex Luthor from the 60s, that mad scientist type Lex Luthor, and Superman is still kind of underappreciated for this movie, and that this movie has great parts of stories from comics that are just kind of put together wrong. Like, the movie needs, like, an editor to go in and fix it. That's what I heard. Like, this movie just isn't put together right, and it's missing things that are probably in the director's cut. Like the deleted scene that Warner Brothers released the day after the movie came out, where Lex is talking to, a lot of people are saying, like, Darkseid. You don't think it's not Darkseid?
It's Steppenwolf.
Oh. I don't know who that is. So
He's from Apocalypse.
I mean, I figured it had something to do with, like, Darkseid and something, but, like, see, I didn't read a lot of I didn't read any Superman when I was younger, and I didn't read very many Batman comics when I was little. So, but, like, that's all I heard about this movie was, like, Ben Affleck's great, Wonder Woman's the best part of the movie. Lex Luthor will confuse some people because it's not the modern Lex Luthor. It's like 60s, 70s throwback Lex Luthor. And Superman is still the odd man out in this movie.
Is that...
And that, like, I'm not saying that because, like, there's an over-exaggerated history of me in all of our shows, like, disliking Superman. But, like, it's not that okay.
We've already gotten there. It's
so, like, I want to hear your perspective because you like this movie, and I want to go in hearing something positive about this movie because, like, I really want to see this movie.
Was Ben Affleck good? We'll start there.
See, you saying that, I don't know if I can agree with that. I do love Wonder Woman as a character, but in this movie, her as, like, you know, as Diana Prince, her alter ego, whatever you want to say, I'll say that part of it is weak, but at the same time, that's one thing I was telling Corey the other day, is that I don't fully want to judge this movie right away because it seems pretty clear, and Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder have made it like their thing to let us all know that there's going to be an ultimate cut and a director's cut, whatever. So I almost feel like this is the same situation that happened with Watchmen when Watchmen came out, where it's like when they first made the movie, their intention was for it to be a 3-hour-long movie, but when they put it in theaters, you can't have a 3-hour-long movie, so you have to cut it back, and then it might seem jumbled or chopped, or things feel like they're missing, and that's what I'll say about it. It's like it does feel like things are missing, but it's not like, I really don't get why people are bashing on it that bad. It really isn't like a huge mess or anything like that. But I guess I am a tiny bit biased because I'm a huge DC fan. I've read a lot of the comics and I love a lot of them very much so.
So Batman and Robin is your favorite Batman movie? I'm just kidding. Continue.
Absolutely not. But when it came, like I was saying with Wonder Woman, I think she's awesome when it comes to the end. I guess that's a minor spoiler. But when it comes to the end, but if you've seen the trailers, you kind of already seen that. But when it comes to the end of the movie, Wonder Woman is awesome. And the way that she is weaved into the story, I think it works well. I think it makes sense. I don't understand why people are like bashing up against that thing that it feels forced in or something like that. Which, yes, when they were first writing the movie, I don't think Wonder Woman was planned to be in it. But the way that they put her in, it felt somewhat organic, even though it still feels like there's things missing, that there might be scenes there that are supposed to be there. And I don't know, overall, the first time I watched it, I was like a little, like I walked out of it thinking like, okay, I really did like it, but I definitely didn't love it. But I think that's what people should be doing, is when I watched it, I think it demands more viewings. Mm-hmm. I think it's a movie that if you watch it several times, you like it the more and more you watch it. That's really the best thing I can say.
Yeah, that is another thing too that I heard. I said, like, I listened to a bunch of podcasts, and like there's a couple podcasts I listen to called the Geek Box and then the Comic Conspiracy podcast, and they said that when they went and saw it a second time, the movie was a lot better because a lot of people are like, some of the criticisms I'm hearing is like people are going in that don't really know what Warner Brothers is trying to do. Like, they're not trying to be the Marvel movies. Like, they're trying to do their own thing and people going in expecting the Marvel movie are really going to not understand and not like this movie.
Right.
Which I already knew that DC is doing something different. They made that very clear with Man of Steel. Like, say what you want about that movie, whether you like it or don't like it, which I actually went back and watched it the other night, and it's good. It's not great, but it's good. But like that's the tone they want, and they want to go for a darker feel, and like that's what you need to expect going into this movie. And expect, this movie was supposed to be like maybe almost 3.5 hours long, and you're gonna get that in the fall when this movie comes out on DVD. So
I feel like that's the time that people should be criticizing the movie, is when the actual film comes out, the film that Zack Snyder wanted us to see. But anyway, I kind of derailed from that. I didn't go back to what I was mentioning. Everyone says that Wonder Woman's the best part of this movie. I think by far Batman's the best part of this movie, because I guess it is a tiny bit biased because I'm a huge Batman fan, but
who isn't?
But the way that Ben Affleck plays Batman, and the way there's certain scenes in this movie where Batman is just, I don't know, it seriously is like straight out of the comics, and I'm not the only one who said this, but I think Ben Affleck is by far the best Batman that we've had on screen, for sure. Like, I think Christian Bale, he was great. He did a really great balancing of Bruce Wayne and Batman, whatever. But Ben Affleck is seriously, he really is like Batman. Like, I cannot see him as Ben Affleck at certain times. It's just like he really is Bruce Wayne, and then he really is Batman, and it's incredible. And I've always loved Henry Cavill as Superman, after seeing the movie, I watched this one guy give a review of it where he had this like really emotional reaction to the movie, and I almost feel like people should look that up. I can't remember exactly what the video is called, but it's called like My Emotional Reaction to Batman v Superman, whatever. I think after you see the movie, you should watch that guy's review, and then it'll open your mind to a different way of seeing how the movie was done. Because I think everyone's kind of being like they're a little closed-minded off to what half the movie is trying to do. And also, I did see that before, and I actually thought of that before I saw that article, but I always feel like Batman v Superman is that, where it's a slightly more complicated movie than all the Marvel movies have ever been. So an article I saw in a YouTube video I saw the other day was called, "Are DC films too smart for Marvel fans?"
Oh.
Yeah,
I
read that same article.
I almost feel like that kind of is what we're doing. They're trying to make it like more of a complicated thing, weaving in all these different things, but instead of like spoon feeding you everything like all the Marvel movies do, which is kind of a bummer now that I think of it after seeing Batman v Superman. Thinking back to Marvel movies, even Captain America: Winter Soldier and stuff, it's like everything was spoon fed to you. You never really had to figure anything out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Batman v Superman isn't that. And also,
that makes a lot of sense.
And also, one thing I remember I was saying to you a while back, which is I was hoping that they would do that, and it kind of looks like they are doing that, especially with Batman v Superman and Wonder Woman, where they kind of are working backwards, to be honest. Yeah. Where it's like Batman v Superman, you see Wonder Woman, and everyone's complaining that they didn't develop her enough, but I think there's a reason for that. I think she's
getting her own movie.
Yeah, Wonder Woman movie.
I think it's just that she's here,
30s,
and the Wonder Woman movie is gonna like end up where Batman v Superman began, kind of thing. Yeah. And I feel like that's where they're going. Yeah, and I kind of like that better, to be honest. Where it's like you get introduced to the character, and you're like, who is this person? And then the movie comes later. I kind of like that better, to be honest, instead of where it's like they show you everybody and then you move.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, like, in hindsight, this movie, how much better this movie is going to be. A, once that director's cut comes out, and B, once like this universe is developed, and once people
are going to look back on it,
and be like, oh, this was this like basically the start of something great,
right?
You know, like, because like honestly, I do want to see this movie. I'm really excited for the Wonder Woman movie. I'm intrigued to see
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, well, not after what we heard this week, but we're gonna save that for another episode. You know, I'm really intrigued to see how they change the Flash from like the TV show to this Flash, which I got from the pictures of the uniform and what I've seen. It kind of has like an Injustice vibe, the video game. I really want to see how they change that up, and like I'm really interested to see what they do with Aquaman, because like that the first image they release of Aquaman makes you, because like everybody knows Aquaman's like the running joke of the DC universe, but once they release that first image, I'm like, Aquaman's kind of scary looking, but like really like I want to see how this universe develops, and I want to see what they're gonna do with the Green Lantern Corps, and I want to see you know the Cyborg stuff. I want to see how they incorporate that into the Justice League, because Cyborg's more like Teen Titan ish. So like there's a lot of characters in development that I want to see. Does this movie, once these movies are out, does this movie, like, no pun intended, does this universe do this movie justice? Like,
Yeah.
no pun intended.
Yeah. So it makes sense.
But yeah, after seeing it 3 times, I guess I can honestly say, even though this isn't the full film, I would say there's only one thing I didn't like about it. Other than that, I honestly loved everything else about this movie.
Was it Doomsday?
No, I loved Doomsday. I thought it worked in fine.
Was it the ending? No spoiler. I already know what happens at the end, though.
Why would you ruin that for yourself?
I was listening to a podcast and I was zoning out and I didn't know what they were talking about.
No, I actually thought that worked really well too. And I thought, once again, I feel like if the move, whenever the director's cut comes out and things are longer and you can see like the progression of things move a little easier than like kind of like where it's like, it feels like the scene should be longer, but they cut it right there and then they moved on kind of thing. That's what the whole movie kind of feels like. It feels like there should be moments there to kind of like ease the story into you rather than it being like we're moving on really quick. But I thought the Doomsday thing at the end was great. I thought it worked in well, and it was also just really cool seeing him in a live action movie. But no, it wasn't the very ending. No, I didn't have a problem with that at all. I thought that was actually kind of cool seeing that. There's just,
I wonder how they're going to incorporate the ending of that movie into other movies.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I really don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But the only thing I was going to say is because what if you've already spoiled it for yourself? And it's been known for ages now that they're going to have little cameos for certain characters. That's the only scene I didn't like in the movie.
Yeah.
Because it felt too weird. Other than that, everything else I thought was great. And I really like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, honestly. I thought he was really good.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about it right now. And whenever you guys see it, you guys can have a spoiler cast because I'm not going to talk about it anymore. There is one more question, but I kind of feel like we should just move on.
We should save it for next week.
Yeah, we'll save it for next week. Also, because we just had a huge conversation about Batman v Superman, talking about comic book movies and stuff. So we'll save that for next time. So, should I still say all that shit? Like,
No.
That's it. I just say like, hey, all right.
You know where to find us. That's a wrap.
All right. Thanks for watching us on this episode of DNA Real Talk. You can find us on... No, I'm not going to do that this time. You know where to find us. You do. You've been here long enough. You know. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook.
You should know.
We're on Twitch. We're on all that. Go to Redbubble, buy our stuff. I know we've been slacking on that lately, but we'll get new stuff up there soon. So, for this episode and this week, that's a wrap.